The autumn mist hung gently over the French countryside as Private William Hartwell stepped down from the transport wagon, his boots finding purchase on the soft earth of the staging area. The year was 1916, and like so many young men from villages across England, William had answered the call to serve his country in what everyone hoped would be the war to end all wars. William was 22 years old, with kind brown eyes and calloused hands that spoke of his life working in his father's carpentry shop in the village of Little Thornton. He carried with him a leather satchel containing letters from his mother Margaret, his younger sister Eleanor, and his sweetheart Rebecca, along with a small wooden carving of a robin that he had made during the long journey across the Channel. The Western Front stretched across the French and Belgian countryside like a vast network of defensive positions, where millions of soldiers from Britain, France, Germany, and other nations faced each other across the disputed ground, known as No Man's Land. But William's story begins not in the trenches themselves, but in the quieter moments that revealed the humanity that persisted even in the midst of global conflict. As William made his way through the organized chaos of the military camp, he was assigned to the 2nd Battalion of the Middlesex Regiment, under the command of Captain Edmund Thornfield, a career officer from Yorkshire who had served in South Africa and brought to his command both military expertise and genuine care for the welfare of his men. William's first bunkmate was Corporal James Fletcher, a cheerful man from Wales who had been serving on the Western Front for 8 months. James had the remarkable ability to find humor and hope in the most difficult circumstances, and he immediately took William under his wing, showing him how to arrange his kit, where to find the best spots in the mess tent, and most importantly, how to write letters that would comfort the folks back home without causing them unnecessary worry. The trick, James explained as they sat together that first evening, sharing tea from tin cups while the distant sound of artillery provided a constant, low rumble like approaching thunder, is to tell them about the small things. The sunrise over the fields, the way the French villages wave when we march through their towns, the letters we get from school children thanking us for our service. They don't need to know about the difficult parts. They have enough to worry about at home. William learned that James had a wife named Catherine and 2 small children, Thomas and Mary, who lived in a cottage near Cardiff. Every evening, without fail, James would write a letter home, describing in careful detail the meals they had eaten, the friends he had made, the books he was reading, and always, his love for his family and his hope for the future. As the weeks passed, William settled into the rhythm of military life on the Western Front. The days were filled with training, maintenance of equipment, and the various duties required to keep a large military organization functioning effectively. But it was the evenings that became most precious to William and his fellow soldiers, for this was when they would gather to write letters, read mail from home, and share stories that connected them to the world beyond the war. The mail call was the highlight of every day, announced by Sergeant Major Robert Davies, a stern but fair man from Scotland who had fought in the Boer War and understood the vital importance of maintaining morale among the troops. When Sergeant Major Davies called out names and distributed letters, parcels, and newspapers from home, the entire atmosphere of the camp would lighten, as men eagerly opened envelopes and absorbed news from their families, friends, and communities. William treasured every letter from home. His mother Margaret wrote regularly, describing the changing seasons in Little Thornton, the progress of the kitchen garden she tended, and the small happenings in village life. She told him about the harvest festival at the church, the new foal born to their neighbors Maury, and how his father was teaching carpentry skills to young men whose brothers and fathers had gone to war. Eleanor, his sister, wrote with the enthusiasm of youth, describing her progress in school, her work helping with the war effort by knitting socks and rolling bandages for the Red Cross, and her dreams of becoming a teacher when the war ended. Her letters were filled with questions about France, the French people, and whether William had learned any French words during his service. But it was Rebecca's letters that William treasured most. She wrote with gentle affection about their future together, her work in the village shop, and the small cottage they had planned to rent when he returned home. Rebecca had a gift for describing ordinary moments in ways that made them seem magical. The way morning light filtered through the shop window, the satisfaction of helping customers find exactly what they needed, the anticipation of spring flowers pushing through the winter soil. William discovered that writing letters home was as important as receiving them. With James's guidance, he learned to craft messages that would reassure and comfort his family while honestly describing his experiences. He wrote about the French countryside, which despite the war still retained much of its natural beauty. He described the ancient stone churches in the villages they passed through, the kindness of French civilians who would share what little food they had, and the remarkable camaraderie that developed among soldiers from different backgrounds and regions. Today, we helped an elderly French farmer repair a stone wall that had been damaged by a supply wagon. William wrote to his mother. His granddaughter, perhaps 10 years old, brought us fresh bread and cheese as we worked. She spoke no English, and we spoke little French, but we understood each other perfectly through smiles and gestures. The wall stands strong again, and we were reminded why we serve here, so far from home. As winter approached, William's unit was rotated to 4 positions, where they would spend weeks at a time in the elaborate system of trenches that had been constructed along the front lines. These earthworks were marvels of engineering, featuring deep excavations reinforced with wood and sandbags, connected by communication trenches that allowed safe movement of men and supplies, and equipped with everything necessary to sustain large numbers of soldiers for extended periods. The trenches were organized with military precision. The front line faced no man's land, the contested area between opposing forces. Behind this were support trenches, supply depots, command posts, and eventually, the reserve areas where troops could rest and reorganize. The entire system stretched for hundreds of miles, representing one of the largest construction projects in human history. Life in the forward positions required careful organization and mutual dependence among the soldiers. William found himself part of a small unit that included James Fletcher, Private Michael O'Sullivan from Ireland, Private David Thompson from Scotland, and Private Arthur Pemberton from the north of England. These 5 men became as close as brothers, sharing not only the duties and dangers of military service, but also their hopes, fears, and dreams for the future. Michael O'Sullivan was a storyteller in the Irish tradition, with an endless repertoire of tales about his homeland, its history, and its people. During the long quiet hours, Michael would entertain his comrades with stories of ancient Irish heroes, mysterious folklore, and humorous anecdotes about village life in County Cork. His stories transported the men beyond their immediate circumstances, allowing their imaginations to wander through green hills and ancient castles, populated by characters both heroic and comic. David Thompson possessed practical skills that proved invaluable in trench life. Before the war, he had worked as a blacksmith in a small Scottish village, and he could repair almost anything with the limited tools and materials available. David could fix broken equipment, improve the comfort and functionality of their living spaces, and create useful items from materials that others might discard. His quiet competence and steady reliability made him the unofficial problem solver for their group. Arthur Pemberton had been a teacher before joining the army, and he maintained his educational interests even in their current circumstances. Arthur had managed to acquire a small collection of books, which he shared freely with anyone interested in reading. More importantly, Arthur had a gift for helping his comrades write letters that clearly expressed their thoughts and feelings. Many soldiers struggled to put their experiences into words that would be meaningful to their families, and Arthur provided gentle guidance that helped them communicate more effectively. The 5 friends established, routines that provided structure and comfort in their daily lives. Each morning, they would share tea and whatever food was available, discussing plans for the day and news from their letters. David would inspect and maintain their equipment, ensuring that everything was in proper working order. Arthur would read aloud from newspapers or books, keeping them informed about events beyond their immediate area. Michael would entertain them with stories or songs, maintaining morale during difficult periods. James would organize their correspondence activities, helping everyone stay in regular contact with home. The winter of 1916 brought particular challenges to life on the Western Front, but it also revealed the remarkable human capacity for adaptation and the creation of comfort under difficult circumstances. William and his friends learned to find warmth and satisfaction in small pleasures that civilians might take for granted, but which became precious beyond measure in their current situation. The arrival of parcels from home was always a cause for celebration, not just for the recipients, but for their entire unit. Families and communities back in Britain had organized systematic campaigns to support their soldiers, sending carefully packed boxes containing warm clothing, preserved foods, tobacco, books, writing materials, and small luxury items that provided comfort and connection to home. William's mother, Margaret, was particularly thoughtful in her selections. She would include hand-knitted socks made from the finest wool, which were essential for keeping feet warm and dry in the damp conditions of the trenches. She sent preserved fruits from their family orchard, homemade biscuits wrapped in careful layers of paper, and small bars of soap that carried the familiar scent of home. Most precious of all were the photographs she included, pictures of the family cottage, the village church, seasonal changes in their garden, and portraits of family members and friends. Rebecca's parcels always contained something special that she had made herself. She was skilled at needlework, and she sent William a warm scarf knitted in the colors of their village, a small pillow embroidered with their initials, and bookmarks decorated with pressed flowers from walks they had taken together. These personal touches connected William directly to the woman he loved and the future they planned to build together. The sharing of parcels became a ritual that strengthened the bonds among the soldiers. When Michael O'Sullivan received a package containing traditional Irish shortbread from his mother, he would break it into portions for everyone in their group. When David Thompson's sister sent him a small bottle of Scottish whiskey, he would carefully measure out tiny portions for special occasions. Arthur Pemberton's parcels often contained books or newspapers, which became community property to be read and discussed by anyone interested. James Fletcher established the tradition of organizing letter-writing sessions every evening after supper. The five friends would gather in their dugout, arrange their writing materials, and compose their daily correspondence to family and friends. This ritual served multiple purposes. It ensured that everyone maintained regular contact with home. It provided a structured activity during the quiet hours, and it created opportunities for mutual support and assistance. William discovered that he had a talent for describing the French countryside in ways that transported his readers beyond the immediate circumstances of war. He wrote detailed accounts of ancient villages with stone churches that had stood for centuries, rolling farmland that remained productive despite the nearby conflict, and the resilience of French civilians who continued their daily lives with dignity and hope. Yesterday, we passed through a village where an elderly woman tended a small garden behind her cottage. William wrote to Rebecca. Despite everything happening around us, she had managed to grow the most beautiful roses I have ever seen. Deep red blooms that seem to capture all the beauty and hope that persist even in difficult times. She cut one for each of us as we passed, and I have pressed mine between the pages of my prayer book, where I shall keep it until I can bring it home to show you. Spring arrived gradually in 1917, bringing with it renewed hope and energy throughout the Western Front. The longer days and warmer weather improved conditions considerably, allowing for better maintenance of equipment. improved health and morale among the troops, and increased opportunities for activities beyond the basic requirements of military service. William and his friends had now been serving together for nearly a year, and their friendship had deepened into something approaching family bonds. They knew each other's strengths and weaknesses, shared their deepest concerns and highest hopes, and had developed systems of mutual support that helped them navigate both the challenges of military service and the emotional demands of being separated from their homes and families. James Fletcher had become something of a father figure to the group, despite being only a few years older than the others. His experience, combined with his natural wisdom and compassion, made him the person everyone turned to for advice and guidance. James had a gift for listening without judgment, offering practical solutions to problems, and maintaining perspective during difficult periods. When William struggled with homesickness during the long winter months, James helped him develop strategies for staying connected to home while remaining focused on his duties. When Michael O'Sullivan received word that his father had died, James organized the entire group to provide support and comfort during his grief. When David Thompson was injured in an accident and faced several weeks of recovery, James ensured that his equipment was maintained and his correspondence continued. The arrival of new soldiers provided opportunities for William and his friends to pass on the wisdom and support they had received. They made it their practice to welcome newcomers, help them adjust to military life, and share the techniques they had developed for maintaining morale and connection to home. Private Edward Mills arrived from a farming community in Devon, homesick and overwhelmed by the dramatic change from rural civilian life to military service. William took special responsibility for helping Edward adjust, sharing his own experiences and teaching him the letter-writing techniques that had proven so valuable. Within a few weeks, Edward was not only managing well himself, but helping other newcomers in turn. Corporal Benjamin Wright joined their unit after recovering from injuries sustained in earlier fighting. Benjamin brought valuable experience and perspective, but also carried the emotional weight of difficult experiences. Arthur Pemberton used his teaching skills to help Benjamin process his experiences through reading and discussion, while Michael O'Sullivan provided the healing power of storytelling and humor. The exchange of letters between the front lines and home communities had developed into elaborate networks of communication that connected not just individual soldiers with their families, but entire military units with entire civilian communities. Villages would organize letter-writing campaigns where school children, elderly residents, and community groups would send messages of support and encouragement to soldiers they had never met, but considered part of their extended family. William received letters from his sister Eleanor's school class, where students had learned about military life and wanted to share their appreciation for the soldiers' service. These letters, written in careful penmanship by children aged 8 to 14, contained drawings, poems, and simple messages that provided enormous emotional support to men facing the challenges of military service far from home. "Dear Mr. Soldier," wrote 10-year-old Sarah from Eleanor's class, "My brother Tommy says you are very brave to be fighting in France. I hope you are not too cold and that you have enough to eat. I am learning French in school, and I can say bonjour and au revoir and comment allez-vous, which means how are you. I hope the French people are kind to you and that you will come home safely to your family. I am knitting a scarf for a soldier, and I hope it will keep someone warm." These connections between soldiers and civilian communities created networks of mutual support and understanding that strengthened both groups. Soldiers felt valued and remembered by people at home, while civilians felt connected to the larger cause and able to contribute meaningfully to supporting their defenders. The summer of 1917 brought changes to William's unit as military operations expanded and evolved throughout the Western Front. Their regiment was selected to participate in construction projects designed to improve the infrastructure supporting frontline operations, work that utilized civilian skills that many soldiers had developed before their military service. William's carpentry background proved invaluable as his unit was assigned to build and maintain the wooden structures that reinforced trenches, supported communication networks, and provided shelter for troops and equipment. Working with David Thompson's metalworking skills, Arthur Pemberton's mathematical precision, and Michael O'Sullivan's creative problem-solving abilities, they developed innovative techniques for construction under challenging conditions. The work was physically demanding, but psychologically satisfying, as it allowed the men to use their professional skills in service of their military duties. They took pride in creating structures that would protect and support their fellow soldiers, and the work provided welcome variety from the routine duties of frontline service. James Fletcher was promoted to sergeant. Recognition of his leadership abilities and the respect he had earned from both his superiors and subordinates. The promotion brought additional responsibilities, but James used his expanded authority to continue protecting and supporting the men under his command, ensuring that their welfare remained the top priority in all decisions and activities. The construction projects brought William's unit into contact with French civilian workers who had remained in the area despite the nearby military activity. These interactions provided opportunities to learn about French culture, practice language skills, and develop friendships that transcended national boundaries. William became particularly friendly with Henry Dubois, a master mason whose family had lived in the region for generations. Henry had remained to help maintain and repair the ancient churches and public buildings that were important to the community's identity and morale. Despite the language barrier, William and Henry developed effective communication through gestures, drawings, and the few French and English words each had learned. Henry taught William traditional French building techniques that had been developed over centuries and proved remarkably effective under current conditions. In return, William shared English carpentry methods that impressed Henry with their efficiency and durability. Their collaboration resulted in structures that combined the best elements of both traditions, creating buildings that were both functional and beautiful. The friendship between William and Henry extended beyond their work collaboration. Henry invited William to share meals with his family, including his wife Marie and their daughter Camille, aged 16. These family gatherings provided William with precious glimpses of normal civilian life and reminded him of the values and relationships he was fighting to protect. Marie Dubois was an excellent cook who managed to create delicious and nutritious meals despite wartime shortages and restrictions. She taught William to prepare simple French dishes using ingredients that were available locally, skills that he shared with his military unit and included in letters to Rebecca, who was interested in expanding her own cooking abilities. Camille was studying English in school and was delighted to have opportunities to practice with a native speaker. She helped William improve his French pronunciation while he assisted her with English grammar and conversation. Their language exchanges often included discussions about literature, music, and cultural differences between England and France, conversations that enriched both their perspectives. As autumn returned in 1917, William reflected on the profound changes in his life since joining the army and the deep friendships that had sustained him through the challenges of military service. The 5 friends who had begun as strangers assigned to the same unit had become brothers in every sense except blood, bound together by shared experiences, mutual support, and common values that transcended their different backgrounds and origins. James Fletcher continued to serve as the steady anchor for their group, providing leadership, wisdom, and emotional support that kept everyone focused and resilient. His letters from Catherine and the children remained the highlight of his days, and he shared their contents generously, allowing his friends to experience vicariously the joys and challenges of family life that they all missed. Catherine's letters described the seasonal changes in Wales, the progress of young Thomas and Mary in school, and their various activities, and the ways their community had adapted to support families whose fathers and brothers were serving in the military. Her writing revealed a woman of strength, intelligence, and deep devotion who managed household responsibilities while contributing to community war efforts. Michael O'Sullivan had developed into the group's historian and storyteller, collecting and preserving the experiences they shared and connecting them to larger narratives about courage, friendship, and service. His Irish heritage provided him with a rich tradition of oral history, and he used these skills to help his comrades understand their experiences as part of meaningful larger stories. Michael began writing detailed accounts of their military service, not focusing on conflict and hardship, but emphasizing the human connections, acts of kindness, moments of beauty, and examples of courage and compassion that occurred regularly despite difficult circumstances. His writing provided perspective that helped everyone appreciate the significance of their service and the positive impact they were making. David Thompson's practical skills had expanded to include not just metalworking and equipment maintenance, but also medical assistance, food preparation, and construction supervision. His quiet competence and willingness to tackle any challenge made him indispensable to their unit's effectiveness, while his steady personality provided emotional stability during uncertain periods. David had begun teaching his skills to other soldiers, creating training programs that improved the overall capabilities of their regiment while preserving knowledge that would be valuable after the war ended. His teaching methods emphasized safety, quality, and pride in workmanship, values that resonated with men who looked forward to returning to civilian trades and professions. Arthur Pemberton had established himself as the intellectual center of their group, organizing educational activities, leading discussions about books and current events, and helping soldiers improve their reading and writing skills. His teaching background proved invaluable in maintaining morale and providing mental stimulation that kept minds active and engaged. Arthur had started a lending library, using books donated by families and communities back home, creating a system that allowed soldiers throughout their regiment to access reading materials that provided entertainment, education, and emotional comfort. His library included fiction, poetry, history, technical manuals, and religious texts, offering something for every interest and need. William had discovered talents for leadership and communication that he had never recognized in civilian life. His carpentry skills had proven valuable, but more importantly, his ability to maintain connections with home communities, describe experiences in ways that provided comfort rather than worry, and support fellow soldiers through difficult periods had made him a natural leader whom others sought out for advice and assistance. William's letters home had evolved into detailed accounts of military life that his family shared with their community, providing civilians with understanding and appreciation for the experiences of their soldiers. His writing helped bridge the gap between military and civilian perspectives, creating connections that strengthened support for the war effort while maintaining realistic expectations about its challenges and duration. The correspondence between soldiers and their home communities had developed into a sophisticated network of communication that served multiple purposes beyond simple personal connection. Letters carried news, maintained relationships, provided emotional support, and created understanding between people whose experiences had diverged dramatically since the beginning of the war. William's letters to his mother, Margaret, had become treasured documents that she shared carefully with neighbors and friends who were hungry for authentic information about military life. Margaret was selective about which portions of William's letters she shared, always respecting his privacy while providing her community with information that helped them understand and support their soldiers more effectively. Margaret's responses describe village life with attention to details, that would interest William and help him maintain connection to home. She wrote about seasonal changes in their garden, progress on community projects, news about neighbors and friends, and local events that continued despite the war's disruptions. Her letters painted pictures of normal life that provided psychological anchor points for William during challenging periods. Eleanor's letters had evolved from simple family news to more sophisticated discussions about her education, her volunteer work with war relief organizations, and her growing understanding of the conflict's broader implications. At 17, Eleanor was developing into a thoughtful, young woman whose perspectives on the war and its effects provided William with insights into how the conflict was shaping the next generation. Eleanor had organized her school friends to maintain correspondence with multiple soldiers, creating a systematic program that ensured every local service member received regular letters from young people in their community. This program had expanded to include care packages, fundraising for military support organizations, and educational activities that helped students understand geography, history, and international relations. Rebecca's letters remained William's most precious correspondence, maintaining their emotional connection while allowing their relationship to deepen despite physical separation. Rebecca wrote about her daily activities, her thoughts about their future together, and her own growth and development during this period of independence and responsibility. Rebecca had taken over greater responsibilities in her family shop, developing business skills and confidence that she had never needed before the war. Her letters described challenges and successes in managing customers, suppliers, and financial accounts, revealing capabilities that impressed William and made him proud of her strength and adaptability. More importantly, Rebecca's letters maintained the romantic and emotional connection that sustained William's hope for the future. She wrote about the cottage they planned to rent, improvements they would make together, and dreams they shared for their life after the war. Her writing kept their love alive and growing despite the months of separation. I walked past our cottage again yesterday, Rebecca wrote in one letter, and noticed that the rose bush by the front gate are finally beginning to bloom properly. The previous tenants had neglected them, but with proper pruning and care, they are producing the most beautiful flowers. I think they are waiting for us to make them truly beautiful again, just as I am waiting for you to come home so we can make our dreams beautiful and real. The winter of 1917 into 1918 brought some of the harshest weather conditions experienced on the Western Front, but it also revealed the remarkable human capacity to find warmth, comfort, and joy in simple pleasures that civilians might overlook, but which became precious beyond measure to soldiers facing challenging circumstances. The arrival of mail remained the highlight of every day, but the soldiers had also developed numerous other sources of satisfaction and entertainment that helped maintain morale during the long winter months. Music played an important role, with many soldiers possessing instruments or singing abilities that they shared with their comrades during quiet hours. Michael O'Sullivan had brought with him a small tin whistle, a traditional Irish instrument that produced beautiful, haunting melodies perfectly suited to the intimate spaces where soldiers gathered. Michael's repertoire included traditional Irish airs, popular songs from home, and military tunes that everyone could sing together. His music provided emotional expression that words alone could not accomplish. David Thompson had carved a simple wooden flute during quiet periods, using his metalworking tools to create holes and adjust the instrument's tone. David's musical abilities were limited, but his dedication to practice and improvement inspired others to develop their own talents and contributed to a musical culture within the unit. James Fletcher possessed a fine singing voice that he had developed in his church choir back in Wales. James would lead group singing sessions that included hymns, folk songs, and popular tunes that everyone knew. These musical gatherings created moments of beauty and unity that provided emotional sustenance during difficult periods. The The soldiers had also developed various games and competitions that provided entertainment, while building camaraderie and friendly rivalry. Card games were popular, but they also created contests based on military skills, general knowledge, storytelling abilities, and creative challenges that showcased individual talents. Arthur Pemberton organized literary competitions where soldiers would write poems, stories, or descriptive essays about their experiences, with prizes awarded for different categories such as humor, insight, and artistic merit. These competitions encouraged creative expression while documenting the human experience of military service in ways that preserved important perspectives and emotions. William discovered that he had talent for wood carving, using his carpentry tools to create small decorative objects during quiet periods. His carvings included replicas of birds and animals from home, decorative boxes for storing precious personal items, and small gifts for his friends that commemorated their shared experiences. William's carving skills attracted attention from other soldiers who wanted to learn this relaxing and productive hobby. He began teaching carving techniques, creating informal classes that provided structured activity during quiet hours while producing useful and beautiful objects that could be sent home as gifts or kept as personal mementos. The French civilians in nearby communities had developed friendly relationships with the soldiers, often inviting them to share meals, participate in local celebrations, and experience aspects of French culture that enriched their understanding and appreciation of the people they were helping to protect. Henry Dubois and his family continued to welcome William and his friends into their home, sharing traditional French holiday celebrations that provided glimpses of normal family life and cultural traditions. These gatherings reminded the soldiers of the values and relationships they were fighting to preserve and gave them hope for the restoration of peaceful civilian life after the war ended. Marie Dubois taught the soldiers to prepare traditional French holiday dishes, sharing recipes and techniques that they could remember and recreate for their own families after returning home. These cooking lessons provided practical skills while creating opportunities for cultural exchange and friendship that transcended language barriers. Camille Dubois had become fluent in English through her conversations with William and his friends, and she served as an interpreter for other soldiers who wanted to communicate with local residents. Her language skills and friendly personality made her a valuable bridge between the military and civilian communities. The spring of 1918 brought renewed energy and optimism to the Western Front as military and political leaders on all sides recognized that the conflict was approaching its conclusion. The arrival of American forces in significant numbers had shifted the balance of resources, while war weariness in all participating nations created pressure for negotiated settlement of the disputes that had initiated the conflict. For William and his friends, spring meant rotation back to support positions where they could enjoy greater comfort, safety, and opportunities for rest and recreation. Their months of frontline service had earned them respect from their commanders and gratitude from newer soldiers who benefited from their experience and guidance. The support positions provided opportunities for more extensive correspondence with home, as mail service was more regular and soldiers had additional time for writing detailed letters. William used this opportunity to create lengthy accounts of his experiences that would help his family understand what he had learned and how he had grown during his military service. The most important thing I have learned, William wrote to his mother, is that people everywhere are much more alike than they are different. The French families we have met want the same things we want: safety for their children, sufficient food for their tables, roofs that don't leak, and hope that the future will be better than the present. The German soldiers we have encountered are young men like ourselves, far from their families and longing for home. William's letters described the friendships he had formed with his fellow soldiers, emphasizing how men from different backgrounds and regions had learned to support each other through shared challenges and common values. He wrote about James Fletcher's wisdom and leadership, Michael O'Sullivan's gift for storytelling, David Thompson's practical skills and steady reliability, and Arthur Pemberton's dedication to education and intellectual development. "We have become brothers in every sense except blood," William wrote to Rebecca, "and I know these friendships will continue long after the war ends." James has invited all of us to visit his family in Wales, and we have promised to attend each other's weddings and serve as godfathers to each other's children. The war has given us something precious that we never would have found in civilian life: friendships tested by hardship and proven by mutual sacrifice. The spring weather allowed for outdoor activities that had been impossible during the harsh winter months. The soldiers organized sports competitions, took longer walks through the French countryside, and spent more time in conversations with local civilians who provided valuable perspectives on European history and culture. William's friendship with Henry Dubois had deepened into genuine affection and mutual respect that transcended national boundaries. Henry taught William about French history, architecture, and cultural traditions, while William shared English perspectives on politics, society, and economic development. Their discussions helped both men understand the complex causes of the current conflict and the importance of international cooperation in preventing future wars. Henry's wife, Marie, and daughter Camille had become like family to William, providing emotional support and feminine perspectives that he missed during his separation from his mother, sister, and sweetheart. Their kindness and hospitality represented the best qualities of international friendship and cooperation that could emerge from the tragedy of warfare. Marie Dubois had taught William to prepare several French dishes that he planned to share with Rebecca after their marriage, while Camille had improved his French language skills to the point where he could hold extended conversations about complex topics. These cultural exchanges enriched his understanding of the world and prepared him to be a more thoughtful and capable citizen after returning home. As summer progressed, it became increasingly clear that the war was approaching its end, though the exact timing remained uncertain. Military operations continued, but diplomatic activities had intensified, and soldiers on all sides were discussing the challenges and opportunities they would face during the transition back to civilian life. William and his friends spent considerable time planning for the return home, discussing their hopes and dreams while addressing concerns about readjusting to civilian life after months of military service. Their conversations revealed both excitement about reunion with families and anxiety about whether they had changed too much to fit comfortably back into their former lives. James Fletcher was most eager to return to his wife Catherine and children Thomas and Mary, but he also worried about finding employment that would provide adequate income for his family. The war had disrupted many traditional industries, and returning soldiers would compete for available jobs in an economy that was transitioning from wartime production to peacetime activities. James had decided to use his military leadership experience to pursue opportunities in business or public service, fields where his proven abilities in managing people and resources would be valuable. Catherine's letters indicated that she supported his ambitions and was prepared to help him explore new career possibilities that would utilize the skills he had developed during his military service. Michael O'Sullivan planned to return to Ireland, where he hoped to use his storytelling abilities and expanded perspectives to contribute to cultural and political activities in his home country. Michael had developed a deeper understanding of Irish history and identity through conversations with soldiers from other nations, and he felt called to share these insights with his community. Michael had begun writing a collection of stories about Irish soldiers' experiences in the war, emphasizing themes of courage, friendship, and sacrifice that honored their service while providing future generations with authentic accounts of this historic period. His writing combined traditional Irish narrative techniques with modern literary approaches, creating works that preserved cultural heritage while addressing contemporary concerns. David Thompson looked forward to returning to Scotland, where he planned to establish his own metalworking business using skills and techniques he had learned during his military service. David had identified opportunities in construction and manufacturing that would allow him to employ other returning soldiers while contributing to economic recovery in his region. David had developed detailed business plans that incorporated innovations he had discovered during his military service, along with traditional Scottish craftsmanship techniques that would differentiate his products from mass-produced alternatives. His practical approach and proven reliability made his business prospects promising. Arthur Pemberton was eager to return to teaching, but with expanded goals that included curriculum development and educational leadership. Arthur had recognized the importance of international understanding and cultural awareness in preventing future conflicts, and he planned to develop educational programs that would prepare young people to be more thoughtful and informed citizens. Arthur had collected books, maps, and cultural artifacts from France that he planned to use in teaching geography, history, and foreign languages to his students. His first-hand experience with international cooperation and cultural exchange would bring authenticity and relevance to his educational activities. William faced perhaps the most significant life changes, as he planned not only to resume his carpentry career, but also to marry Rebecca and establish their household together. William had saved most of his military pay, and combined with Rebecca's savings from her work in the shop, they would have sufficient resources to rent their cottage and purchase furniture and household equipment. William had learned construction techniques from both his military service and his friendship with Henry Dubois that would allow him to expand his carpentry business beyond simple repairs to include custom furniture making and architectural woodworking. These specialized skills would provide higher income and greater job satisfaction than his pre-war work. More importantly, William's experiences had deepened his character and broadened his perspective in ways that would make him a better husband, father, and community member. His letters to Rebecca had explored these personal changes, ensuring that their relationship continued to grow and develop despite their physical separation. I'm still the man you fell in love with," William wrote to Rebecca, "but I am also more than I was before. I have learned to value friendship, to find strength in difficult circumstances, to appreciate beauty in unexpected places, and to hope for good things even when the present is challenging. I believe these changes will make me a better husband to you and father to our future children." The autumn of 1918 brought the long-awaited armistice that ended active fighting on the Western Front, though the formal peace treaty would not be signed until the following year. For William,